Hi, everyone. Welcome to this month's Office Hours with Jane App. I'm Kendell Hagensen, and we're chatting with Nicole McCance today. So, if we haven't met yet, I'm a somatic psychotherapist. I own a multidisciplinary clinic here in Vancouver, Washington, and I'm a business coach with Wellness Center Creators. Nicole, welcome to Office Hours this month. Would you like to introduce yourself to our viewers today?
Yes. Hi, guys. I'm so thrilled that you were here. I am a retired psychologist, which is always mind blowing to say. I retired just a few years ago after selling my multiple seven-figure practice. If I can just take a moment to kind of share that, because people always have questions. When I was pregnant with twins in 2018, I said, I need help. We're going to be talking about that today. I need to hire.
Yes.
And I was able to grow it to 55 therapists in just 3 years. And after I sold it, I said, I have to teach people how to do this. And I do that now.
Well, I appreciate you sharing, Nicole, because people would be asking, and it's so important because we're talking about being a parent today and a business owner. And more specifically, we'll get into being mamas because there's a little bit of a difference between moms and dads, and we'll get into that a little bit. But I'm so glad you're here. We're really going to focus on work life integration today. And we often hear this term work life balance. And I like to kind of challenge that because if we really picture ourselves trying to balance all the things like physically, it would be absurd, right? We'd be dropping things. We're obviously off balance because there's too many things over here or whatever. And so when people say, okay, work life balance, it really doesn't exist, in my opinion. And I'm curious if you agree with that. So I want to get into that today. I'm curious, Nicole, what are some ways that you have found to really integrate your work life and your home life? Because we're both moms, we have kiddos about the same age.
Yeah.
What have your strategies been?
Yes. So my twins are finally 8. It's getting a little easier. I know you guys let me know in the chat if you're like, oh, they can shower themselves, all those things now. It is getting easier. Couple of things. One, I get up early. It's really important that I get up before the rest of the world. So I get up at 5 in the morning and I handle my needs first. And I'm a better mom because of it. So what I do is I get up at 5 and I meditate. And one of the things, my favorite thing is to see my day going the way that I want it to go. Okay. So that thing that you're worrying about in your day, I'll actually see it, but go like flowing with so much ease. And then I go to hot yoga. And then I come home at 7 a.m. and the kids are up and I am ready. I'm like, my cup is full. I'm ready for the day. So that's like the one thing that I do. I can get into more, but I'd love to hear yours too.
Yeah. Well, we're similar in that way that we get up early. And my wake time is 4:30. We're right around the same time. And I've always been a person that has more energy in the morning. Um, but that early time is just for the exact same reason, so that I can care for myself before my kiddos get up. And my kids are 9 and 6. So, the six-year olds, there's still need quite a bit of help in the morning, not as independent. So I do like to be up before they're awake. I have a bit, Nicole is more of a get up and go in the morning and go into hot yoga. I'm more of a sip some tea in the morning, not necessarily getting out and exercising first thing. But it's all the same principle, right? Taking care of self. And I think when I think about work life integration for me and building my practice and building our wellness center, was that my personal life and family and home is actually really part of what we're doing at the center, and that the center is really impacting my family in a positive way. So some of those tangible things were around, we decided to live and find a home in the area that I wanted to open the center, and we did that. So I live 5 minutes away from work, essentially. And that was really important to me, that I'd be nearby, not only as, the person running the company and being able to head down as needed, especially in those early years, but that it just didn't feel so separated from what's going on in my personal life. And for any of you who have, maybe listened to the Wellness Center Creators podcast or watched me on other videos, you might know by now that my wellness center really supports my own health and my own journey with chronic illness. And so being close to it, proximity physically, was really important to me. So that's one thing. I think being able to truly integrate, and when people say, oh, I'm trying to balance it all, I think it comes down to acceptance of imperfection, right? We're not going to, when we're at work, we're not going to be doing all the parenting things perfectly because we're not there. When we're at home, we're not going to be doing all the work things perfectly. So for me, it's always been about acceptance. It's not going to be perfect. And I, being your own business owner, which most of, the viewers here are, is around the freedom to build your schedule. And that piece is so, so important. I'm curious your thoughts on it, Nicole, when you were running your practice, how you built your schedule to really work for your home life and your clinical life. Because what I see a lot of business owners doing is feeling like they can't actually control their schedule because there's so much to do
Yeah.
in both realms,
Yeah.
right? So they feel like, well, everyone needs me. So I need to just be at work all the time, or I need to be at home all the time. And you've created your own business. One of the biggest reasons for doing that for a lot of us is to create the schedule that works for you. So I highly encourage you to do that. And later in our chat today, I want to give some strategies on actually how to work through that, which is an exercise I do for myself about every 3 months. But I'm curious, Nicole, your thoughts on like taking control of your schedule.
Yes, I have a bunch. I'll list them out if you want. So one of the things I rely on a lot is actually Siri. I don't want to say her name because she'll probably,
Don't do it.
right?
She's
She'll
not invited.
probably,
Yeah.
yes. Now she's my best friend because here's the thing. We wear so many hats, the owner's hat, the parent hat. I was a supervisor hat. I was a therapist hat, the wife hat, all the things. So there's so much in a day, like even related to my kids. So they grew out of their swim shorts and one has pink eye and the other one has pink eye and there's a concert at school. And then I had 55 therapists. So all of those personalities. So what I relied on was actually the Reminders app. The moment I have a thought or an idea, so I'm a quick start. I talk about this a lot on my podcast. I don't know. Have you heard of the Colby, Kendall?
Yeah. The
Yeah.
Colby test.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I am a quick start. So I have ideas all the time. And there's so much going in my brain that I will drop something. The moment I have a thought, I throw it into the Reminders app. And then the next day, first thing in the morning, I go through all of my reminders and I triage them. So that helps me. What helps me become less overwhelmed is actually to be more organized. And I don't know anybody here if you relate, if you like to plan or organize, but I'm an organized person. So that actually like helps me a lot. The other big thing related to your question with scheduling is I add 30 minutes, and please do this, of white space in your day. So you are the CEO and there's a lot going on between every single client, meeting, supervision, whatever you're doing. I had truly 30 minutes of white space. Why? Because that was the time where I could be the CEO. I can jump into the instant messenger and that my team felt that I was present, but also I could be available for my husband, if he texts me or something's going on. So that white space honestly saved me. And then you love your life. Like if you jam your schedule, I just don't love my life at all when it's a jammed
Yeah.
schedule. Yeah, there's like
Yeah.
more flow. And the flow for me was 30 minutes of white space between every single thing I did.
Yeah. And I think it depends on your personality, right? Some people like to do like, okay, everything back to back and then have more white
Yes.
space at the end of the day. And, but I was the same way when I was doing clinical work. I would really space out my sessions so that I had more time in between to deal with those fires that were popping up, whether it was at, with the clinic or at home. And it felt more easeful and spacious. And even present day, I do that, with coaching clients or other meetings that, it doesn't have to be so packed in the day. There has to be time to work on the business and to have your door open and be available to your team as well. If you are someone who's in clinic leading a group of people. So when I think about schedules with having kids and being a business owner, I think about the different stages of kiddos too. Because when you have an infant, it's different than when you have an 8-year-old and when you have a 15-year-old. And so um, my oldest daughter was 1 when I opened our center. So that, that work life integration looked a lot like her jumping in the car with me and driving around buying furniture off Craigslist for our, initial furnishings of our clinic. And it also looked like a lot of childcare. So I want to normalize childcare in this conversation. And this is just my opinion. But if you're, business owner mama, business owner parent, childcare is going to be important at times, especially when your kids are really young. And that was part of that acceptance practice for myself is I value what I'm building here. I value obviously my family and raising these little kiddos. And it's okay to have childcare and focus on one thing at a time. It's also okay to delegate some things at the office and focus at home. So I'm curious to your thoughts, Nicole, on childcare and how you really went through that practice of yourself as a parent in those earlier years, especially.
Yeah. Yeah, they were 2 when I opened up the group, so kind of similar
Yeah,
to you. And
yeah,
I think a lot of us, at least the members that I business coach, they come to me when they become parents. It's like, that's the reason I hired and scaled to a group. It's like, I just want to be home more. But I think somebody needs to help. Like you said earlier, you can't do both. So we had a nanny in the earlier days. It just made more sense because there was 2 twins. And yeah, that's what helped me. At least that was handled, someone I trust. And then I was able to do the things I had to grow this like dream practice. And my husband, thank you, Dan, is like amazing. And I have a really helpful partner, which I know we'll talk about later.
yeah, yeah. Those support systems are vital to all of it. Absolutely. So I want to talk a little bit about this idea of building the schedule that works for you in your life and your work, and really, really intentionally, not based on, well, this is when my team wants me to be here. This is when the clients want to come. And no. So this exercise is called your current versus your ideal schedule. And it's exactly how it sounds, but this is something that I do every 3 to 4 months for myself. And it's really helpful to stay on track because if you value having that spaciousness or having that feeling of spaciousness, this is something that can be really helpful. So it's taking your entire current schedule. So writing out an entire week, the 7 days of the week, and hour by hour, what are you typically doing during that hour? So you write it all out, then you look at it and get a little overwhelmed because it's a lot of things because you're a parent and a business owner. Then you make a list off to the side of what are the things that are not serving you? What are the things that are causing depletion? And they just go in a list, right? Your brain's going to say, oh, well, I have to do that, or, but I should be doing that. Just kind of set all of those thoughts aside here on a nice plate, and we'll come back to them later. But make a list, what's not serving you? And then a list, what is serving you? What do you feel great about? What do you want to keep doing? And then, of course, there's a list over here of these are the absolute deal breakers. Have to do these things, want to do these things. These are my responsibilities. I'm going to take my kids to school every day. I'm going to pick them up. I want to be the one to take them to karate. Like, whatever it is that you're choosing as a parent that is a non-negotiable, that's on a list. So that's your current schedule. Then you go over here, make a new draw out, or digitally on the computer, 7 days. This is your ideal schedule. So you're taking those non-negotiables, those go in first. In my opinion, one of the non-negotiables would be lunch every day, or times that you eat. I don't know how many times I've seen clients do this where they're writing out their schedule and they're not taking a lunch for themselves. If you're watching this and you're not taking a lunch for yourself, please consider taking a lunch for yourself or sometime during the day to eat and nourish yourself. It's so,
Yes.
so
Can I
important.
jump in about that real quick?
Please,
Oh my goodness.
please.
So one thing that helped me with decision fatigue, tell me in the chat if you're like, yes, I have that. There's all the decisions all the time. Okay. Don't judge me, but I love snacks. Like they're my favorite thing, but I eat the same thing every day. You know why? Because it's something I
Yeah,
don't have to think about. I have a smoothie. It is the same thing. It's been happening for about 15 years. I have an Amy's burrito. It's 2 minutes to warm up and done. But you know what it is? We only have a certain mental load. So if you can streamline even the foods you eat, life is
yeah.
easier. Consistency.
I'm with you on eating the same thing or having a few things that you rotate through, or meal prepping on the weekend. This is something I do on Sundays. And I'm so grateful. My husband is a wonderful cook and will cook food on weekends, and I go ahead and pack up my lunches for the next few days. So there are different strategies there, but please feed yourself. I think we're all agreeing on that. But the other non-negotiable for me is self-care, and food would be in alignment with that. But other points during the day, so like Nicole's saying, hot yoga in the morning, right? That's a non-negotiable. That's going to stay in the schedule. Maybe it's you go for a walk in the afternoon. Maybe it's you get, every once a week, I get a massage from one of our massage therapists on our team here. So whatever those things are, go on the schedule first. Then you're blocking out time to work on your business. So whether that's every day, those little 30-minute slots, maybe it's a 2-hour spot at the end of each day, maybe it's, Thursday, Friday, all day work on the business, Monday through Wednesday, see clients, whatever it is. But put client slots last at the times that work for you. And, we've been building our practice here multidisciplinary for years and years. And over again, we've experienced we build the schedule that works for our providers and works for their life. And most of our providers are parents on our team, and clients will come at those times that are open. So
Yeah.
that's my encouragement for you, is to really line out that ideal schedule and be very, very intentional, and then create a timeline for when you would like to implement it.
If I could jump in,
Yeah,
even better, okay, here's the thing. We always break commitments to ourselves, don't we? Weren't you supposed to go to the gym this morning? That kind of thing.
sure. Exactly.
Yeah. So what I'll get my members to do is share it with your partner, like literally print it out and say, babe, this is my ideal life. I would love your help. Like, I'd like to see yours. Like, let's create it. And then visually see it, right? Your frequency is what you frequently see. I love that. The frequency that you give out to the universe, if you believe in that, the world is what you frequently see. But even better than that, tell your admin. Tell your admin she's your gatekeeper, and she will make sure nobody books during your yoga or during whatever it is, because
Hmm.
she will stick to your commitments. Probably
Exactly.
sometimes better than you will.
Exactly. That accountability piece is really important. So let's talk a little bit about our counterparts at home
Yeah.
and at the office and those support systems. Um, who are your counterparts and how do you delegate?
Yeah. Dan. So Dan's my husband.
Dan.
So I believe in leaning into, we call it at home here, our strengths. Work related, though, it's your zone of genius. So I'll start with work first. What is your zone of genius? Write that down. And your zone of genius is the thing that you were better than anybody else on your team at. What is it? Write it down. But it's also the thing that you love. If you're good at it, but you don't love it, don't do it. Delegate it. Okay. Create and delegate it. But pick the thing, like, what if you could live your life doing the things only you are actually good at and love to do? And so I leaned into that. I did tons of media back in the day when I had my clinic. And then I had an admin team of 6 and an operations manager, clinic manager when I had my big group practice for therapy. And I would delegate to them. But get this, I do the same thing at home. We lean into Dan's zone of genius, which is cooking. And honestly, I'm just going to be really honest here because we're talking about parenting. Sometimes he's a more patient parent than me. And so and he's, you know what I mean? So I'll say, okay, babe, I've got this going on. Can you pick them up? Can you like deal with them right now? And he just
Mhm.
sometimes does it better. So I delegate to him. And then my zone of genius is I'm very organized. So put everything in the calendar, I'll pay our bills in spreadsheets. Like I'm hyper organized. We lean into his strengths. We lean into my strengths. And it's beautiful. It's like this, and I hope you have a partner where you complement each other because it's easier when like I'm not good at cooking, never eat my food, but he's amazing at it. So it's like, okay, you'll be the one that cooks.
I love that. Just never eat my food. Just yeah, and so and I'm sure we have some viewers who are single business owners as well and single parents. And so it's thinking about who are your support systems, who's your village, and who's there to help you in those ways at home and with the kiddos, and then who are your counterparts at the office that you can delegate things to and trust to delegate things to. Personally, my husband Tim is a rock star. He's also a great cook, um, and does really, really supports our family in that way with keeping everyone nourished. And he also has the privilege of working from home. So he has more flexibility, as much flexibility as I have in owning my own business. He has sometimes even more flexibility with being available to take the kids different activities and things like that because he has the privilege of a remote position. So we're grateful for that. And then in our clinic life, we have an admin team and office manager and have grown over the years to have those support positions. So I want to normalize that for the viewers as well. Like having a support team and a leadership team is not something that you should expect to just start out with as start your solo practice and a small group practice. It takes time to grow and be able to have those supports in place. So you might still be the person who's doing all of the admin things or doing all of those pieces and feeling like you're not able to delegate. And so I think Nicole and I would both encourage you, if you don't have an as a starting place an administrative assistant quite yet, that's something that even if you're feeling like on the verge of not being able to afford it, to really take some time and think about how could you put that in place, even in part-time or in a fractional way or a virtual assistant way, to be able to delegate some of those things.
Totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I know you're going to ask me this, but I'm just going to say it sooner. I wish that I hired an admin sooner, but just know it could be casual. It could,
Yeah.
because I think for a lot of us, it's like 20 bucks an hour, 25, I don't know. But you doing it is costing your business way more than $25 an hour. Keep that in mind.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So that's some great advice for new business owners, clinic owners, and as we're getting sort of to the close of our conversation today, we welcome you to pop any questions into that Q&A section on the screen. We'll be able to grab them if they're in the chat already too, but if you can find the Q&A section, feel free to pop in questions. We're happy to answer, about anything and everything you're curious about. Um, I think my advice for, like, if I had that one piece of advice for if you're just starting out, you're a parent and you're also a business owner, it's just okay to go at the pace that is right for you. And I think there's a lot of pressure in all realms, but especially, and this is where I want to talk about being a mom, because dads are amazing and they're also having struggles as parents. For moms who are working and moms who have careers, there's an added pressure and there's added judgment, there's added guilt in that realm. And so I just, my encouragement is to go at the pace that feels good to you. And whether that's, going more slowly and building your business or, you know, uh, using childcare that, maybe your maybe grandma doesn't think you should be using the daycare, but that's what works for you. So that's just my encouragement is go at the pace that feels good for you. You don't have to do what everyone else is doing. You don't have to do what the practice across the street from you is doing, and you don't have to do what your neighbor's doing as a parent either. So that's my biggest encouragement for if you're starting out.
Perfect. I'll add one other, if that's
Yeah,
okay.
let's hear it. Yeah.
So, what would I say to my younger self? I think I would say to automate and systemize sooner because systems will set you free. So, when a practitioner leaves, I had therapists, I had a system for that. And so my anxiety was still there because, it's not great when people leave, but it was much less because I knew what to do next. And I think a lot of our anxiety comes from like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. And also, if you don't have a system and you want to scale, not everybody here does, but if you don't have a system, you will become not a CEO, you'll become a CQA, a chief question answerer. I'm sure you've had those moments, Kendall, before you systemize. You're just like, oh my gosh, that's what I am, chief question answerer. But systems will replace you basically.
Absolutely. One time my daughter asked me, she said, "Mommy, does CEO mean chief everything officer?" I
Nice. It
said,
kind of does.
yes, it does. Yes, it
Yes.
does.
Oh, that's so good. Smart kid.
Okay, let's see. We have a question here. So Lauren asks, "Hi, curious about both of your sleep schedules and routine. You both wake early. What time do you go to bed? Is it the same time as your kids?"
Mhm. I can go first
What?
if you want.
Go ahead. Yep.
Yeah, this is so important question, Lauren, because it actually starts my getting up early starts the night before. I have to go to bed earlier. I'm just not going to get up early, right? And back to your comment about juggling all the things. Okay, ready? Don't judge me. I do go to bed early. I'm in bed, probably passed out by 9 a.m. I know by 9 a.m. It's
Yeah.
early.
Oh,
My kids go to bed
same.
a bit earlier. Okay. But that means that poor Dan is up. He's a night owl. So it's like juggling all the things, right? But I'm like, babe, I'm not going to be hanging out with you at night, but I'm going to be changing our whole lives and building this empire. Are you good? And he's like, I'm good. You go. I'm like, okay. So he's okay with it. Not all partners are, but like it's,
Right.
yeah.
You have to be on the same page. And I think to answer your question, Lauren, I go to bed at 8:30 or 9 p.m. every night and get up at 4:30. And my husband, we tend to have the same schedule because he works for like an international company, so a lot of times he's doing really early conference calls at like 6 a.m. So he has to get up as well. So we're kind of on that routine together. But our kids go to bed at 7. And, I have a 9-year-old and she still goes to bed at 7. And I'm a huge believer that kids need a lot of sleep. And last night she slept for 12 hours. So they go to bed at 7, we go to bed at 9. So we have some time together, after they go to bed and some time in the morning before they get up. Um, okay, Melissa asks, struggling as the primary parent with school age kids and a 4-month-old going into the school year. I stack my patients so tight in my workday to get to school pickup. How do I find my white space? We are working to hire an admin and a therapist, and I barely have time to do interviews.
Okay. Got it. So for me, I love that you're hiring. It sounds like you are, which is amazing. For me, it was offloading the clients because I told myself if I offload the client, I still keep 40%, which
Yeah.
is, and sometimes that doesn't feel like a lot, but I would put it on a Post-it to remind me, Nicole, you can literally have this hour off, work on your business, grow it more, and keep 40%. So that was motivating. I think the admin will change everything for you. And maybe even just offloading one client, would that make a difference for you? And then maybe there's your white space.
Yeah, I agree with that, Melissa. I would say as you're in the interview process, because hiring an admin and a therapist seems equally important for you. But hiring the therapist, I agree with Nicole, allows you to still bring in revenue while you're not personally working. And I've always thought of it as, okay, if that, employee therapist has two clients, that replaces one of my clients. And, it doesn't take that much to get there. So, but you want the admin to be able to help with the logistics of, growing your team and more clients coming in. So those things are equally important. What I might suggest is to actually, if you're able to financially, personally, to take like a week or two off of out of the office from seeing your clients, and give yourself some space to really dedicate to hiring the right therapist and the right admin, and to have time for those interviews and that whole process, getting someone onboarded. To Even if you took off just 1 week to just focus on that, because it can be really disorienting. You're in the clinical work, um, I don't know what type of clinical work you're doing, but you're in that mode. So it's hard to kind of have space to even do the initial screening and conversations with those applicants. So that might be a suggestion if that could work for you.
Yeah, I have like a 6-step hiring process that I give people
Yeah.
because it's people aren't always honest in interviews, right? So I love that idea of like delegating or dedicating the time to it, which isn't always feasible financially, but if you can. Yeah.
Yeah, if you can. And then once you do have that hire, like Nicole's saying, then start transferring some of your clients to the new therapist, and then build that new therapist so that you can have regular white space in your week.
Just one more thing, Melissa. I don't know if this is your first hire. Maybe let me know in the chat, will you? I found hiring my mini me just made the transition way easier because people were looking for especially my very first hire, were looking for an experience like me, right? So I have high energy, etc. So just keeping that in mind, that hiring the mini me at the beginning made the transition, yeah, really smooth.
Mhm. Yeah, you want someone who's going to be on it and organized and really have your back. I've always said, like, your admin and your support team, they should be cheerleaders for you and your company and your providers, like really, really excited about supporting what you're doing and what you're building. Okay, any other questions? Feel free to pop them in the Q&A or the chat. We have a couple more minutes where we could answer. Melissa says, yes, this is her first hire. She's a pelvic physical therapist.
Perfect. Excited for you.
Yeah, awesome. And Melissa and anyone else, feel free to email. I'll speak for myself. Nicole probably agrees, but feel free to email directly if you have questions that come up. If you're rewatching it, you can reach me at kendall@wellnesscentercreators.com. Nicole, are you okay with people emailing you with
Sure. Yeah.
questions?
Actually, I have my team's in the chat, so we can drop my Instagram.
Great.
It's Nicole.McCance method. That's probably the best way to reach me. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, Nicole, as we close in our Jane office hours, we like to end with like a funny kind of clinic story, or something you remember from clinic life that I always say like only happens at a wellness center. Like what are those kind of what's a funny story that you remember?
Oh, I love it. During COVID, oh gosh, do you remember that? That was traumatizing. And I
Do you
had a
remember it?
7,000 square foot office with 24 rooms and just me. But I had just hired an admin, and one of our values is work hard, play hard. And I just remember we had this huge waiting room that not a single soul had touched in 2 months. So I did cartwheels. Why? Because you can. When am I ever going to do another cartwheel in my life in my office? So it's just this like fun thing that she was a new admin too. She's like, wow, my boss has never done a cartwheel in front of me. So I just have this like the best memory of doing cartwheels because why not? There was not much else going on.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I honestly, this happened pretty recently in our clinic where we got a new water system. And the company we're using for our water, it's like hot water, cold water, and it filters through, and they're like, "Oh, we have this new machine that we can offer you." Great. It's autofill. So, perfect. It's touchless, great. So they install it. I show up the next morning and Nicole, I kid you not, I cannot figure out how to work this touchless water system. I felt so incompetent. And finally, when our office manager got in, she was like, "Oh, you're going to feel so silly once I show you." But so we were laughing so hard. And then we had to make like a tutorial video because no one
Wow.
could figure this thing out. And it's what makes me laugh is it is one of our most viewed Instagram reels of this
Oh, that's the
tutorial of
best.
how to use this water system. So anyway, so silly. Nicole, thank you so much for being
Yes.
here and chatting today. I think I speak for both of us, and I say I hope this is helpful for the viewers and for all the parents out there. We touched on integrating work and life, not balancing, stop trying to balance it, your personal and professional life, how to really manage your schedule with your kiddos in mind, and how important systems are and schedules. So I really encourage you to work on that current schedule versus ideal schedule exercise. I'd love to hear about it. Feel free to email me with questions. Nicole's available too, and her information's in the chat. And I'm Kendell Hagensen, and I look forward to seeing you next month on Jane's Office Hours.
Thanks for having me.